They don't make headlines, but in 2025, Mafia bosses still call the shots. From George Zapola's cybercrime empire to Salvatore Delorentes' grip on corrupt unions, they've adapted. With influence from construction to cryptocurrency, today's mobsters operate smarter and quieter than ever, making them harder to catch and more dangerous than before. George Zapula. Few figures embody the concept of power from the shadows quite like George Zapula. As the street boss of the Lucchese crime family, with Vittorio Manuso imprisoned, Zapula represents something far more dangerous than a traditional don. He is the operational brain behind one of America's most enduring criminal enterprises. What makes Zapula particularly menacing is the way he has restructured the Lucchese family's operations to function in the modern era. While Manuso serves his life sentence, Zapula has effectively become the family's de facto leader, making decisions that affect criminal operations spanning from Manhattan to Long Island. His rise to power wasn't accidental. It was the result of decades of careful maneuvering and an almost supernatural ability to avoid the legal pitfalls that have claimed so many of his contemporaries. The Lucchese family under Zapola's guidance has shown remarkable resilience in an era when many expected organized crime to fade into history. Instead of retreating, they've adapted, moving their operations into sophisticated realms of white-collar crime while maintaining traditional revenue streams of gambling, loan sharking, and labor racketeering. Zapula's genius lies in his understanding that the modern mafia's greatest weapon isn't violence, but their ability to corrupt legitimate institutions from within. What law enforcement finds most troubling about Zapula is his methodical approach to criminal enterprise. Unlike the flashy bosses of previous generations who courted media attention, Zapula operates with the quiet efficiency of a corporate executive. He understands that in 2025, the most successful criminals are those who blend seamlessly into the legitimate business world while maintaining absolute control over their criminal operations. The financial empire that Zapula oversees is staggering in its scope. The family's involvement in construction and waste management in the New York metropolitan area generates millions annually, money that is laundered through an intricate network of shell companies and legitimate businesses. Their expansion into cybercrime and financial fraud demonstrates Zapola's forward-thinking approach, recruiting tech-savvy associates who can manipulate digital systems with the same efficiency their predecessors used to intimidate witnesses. But if Zapula represents the sophisticated evolution of East Coast organized crime, then our next figure embodies something even more formidable: the enduring power of America's most legendary criminal empire, where the ghost of Al Capone still walks the streets and where one man has transformed an entire city into his personal kingdom of corruption. Salvatore "Sally D." Delorentes. The Chicago outfit under Delorentes' leadership has undergone a remarkable transformation that makes it perhaps more dangerous today than during its bloody heyday of the Prohibition era. While the street wars and public executions that once characterized Chicago organized crime have largely faded, they've been replaced by something far more insidious: a criminal organization that has learned to wield influence through corruption, manipulation, and financial crime rather than crude violence. What sets Delorentes apart from many contemporaries is his understanding of Chicago's unique position in American commerce and politics. The city serves as a crucial hub for transportation, finance, and commodities trading, and Delorentes has positioned the outfit to exploit every advantage. The family's traditional gambling involvement has evolved into sophisticated operations spanning illegal sports betting and legitimate casino interests, while their labor racketeering activities encompass some of the most powerful unions in the American Midwest. The scope of Delorentes' criminal empire extends far beyond Chicago's city limits. The outfit's influence reaches into suburban communities throughout Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana, where they've established a network of legitimate businesses serving as fronts for money laundering and other criminal activities. These operations run with a level of professionalism that would be admirable if it weren't so thoroughly corrupt, complete with human resources departments, accounting systems, and strategic planning committees. The financial sophistication of the modern Chicago outfit under Delorentes' leadership is truly staggering. The organization has embraced everything from cryptocurrency speculation to international money laundering schemes, operating through networks of shell companies and offshore accounts that make their financial structure nearly impossible to untangle. They've learned to exploit modern financial system complexities in ways that would have been unimaginable to previous generations of organized crime figures. Yet even the sophisticated operations of the Chicago outfit pale in comparison to the blood-soaked resurrection story that's unfolding in Philadelphia, where a new dawn has risen from the ashes of one of the most violent and unpredictable crime families in American history, a man who has learned to harness chaos itself as a weapon of power. George Borghazi, Philadelphia's crown prince of crime. rising from the blood-soaked streets of South Philadelphia like a phoenix from the ashes of countless mob wars. George Borghazi, promoted to boss of the Philadelphia crime family in 2024, represents a new breed of organized crime leader, one who has learned from the catastrophic mistakes of his predecessors while retaining all of their ruthless ambition and criminal cunning. The Philadelphia crime family has long been considered one of the most volatile and unpredictable organizations in the American Mafia, a reputation earned through decades of internal warfare, spectacular betrayals, and public violence that often spilled over into the city's legitimate business community. Under Borghazi's leadership, however, the family has undergone a dramatic transformation that makes it arguably more dangerous today than during its most notorious periods. What makes Borghazi's story particularly compelling is the way he engineered his rise to power. His promotion followed Joey Merlino's demotion, a transition that could have easily sparked another bloody internal war. Instead, Borghazi managed the succession with a combination of political skill and strategic intimidation that demonstrated his fitness for leadership while sending a clear message to potential rivals about the consequences of challenging his authority. The criminal empire that Borghazi now controls extends far beyond South Philadelphia into suburban communities throughout Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. The family's involvement in construction, waste management, and labor racketeering generates millions annually, but their expansion into sophisticated white-collar crime truly demonstrates Borghazi's vision. Under his leadership, the family has recruited accountants, lawyers, and financial professionals who can manipulate complex business transactions with the same efficiency previous generations used to break legs. Borghazi's approach to violence represents a fascinating evolution in organized crime methodology. While the Philadelphia family hasn't abandoned violence as a tool of control, they've become much more surgical in its application. Gone are the days of public shootouts and car bombings that brought unwanted law enforcement attention. Instead, violence under Borghazi's leadership is carefully calculated, precisely targeted, and designed to send specific messages while minimizing legal consequences. But perhaps no story in modern organized crime is more remarkable than that of our next figure, a man who literally rose from the grave of federal prison to reclaim his throne, transforming a family that law enforcement believed was finished forever into one of the most powerful and dangerous organizations operating in America today. Michael Mancuso. In the annals of American organized crime, few stories are as remarkable as that of Michael Mancuso, boss of the Bonanno crime family, who has been leading since 2012 after his release from prison. His journey from convicted felon to the head of one of New York's 5 families represents not just a personal triumph over adversity, but a masterclass in criminal resilience that has profound implications for understanding how organized crime continues to evolve. The Bonanno family under Mancuso's leadership has undergone a renaissance that has surprised even seasoned observers of organized crime. When he assumed control, the family was reeling from decades of internal strife, federal prosecutions, and the devastating effects of having been infiltrated by FBI agent Joseph Pistone, whose undercover work as Donnie Brasco had exposed the family's innermost secrets. Many experts believed the Bonanno organization was too damaged to recover. Mancuso proved them spectacularly wrong. What sets Mancuso apart from many contemporaries is his systematic approach to rebuilding criminal infrastructure. Rather than simply attempting to resurrect the family's traditional operations, he fundamentally reimagined how a modern crime family should operate. This involved completely rethinking the organization's relationship with technology, law enforcement, and the legitimate business community. The result is a criminal organization that bears little resemblance to the Bonanno family of previous decades, while maintaining all essential characteristics of loyalty, discipline, and ruthless efficiency. The territorial expansion under Mancuso's leadership is nothing short of remarkable. The family's influence now extends far beyond their traditional strongholds in Brooklyn and Queens into Long Island, New Jersey, and even other states where they've established satellite operations. This expansion wasn't achieved through violence alone, but through careful relationship building, strategic partnerships with other criminal organizations, and systematic corruption of local officials and business leaders. Mancuso's understanding of modern financial systems has allowed the Bonanno family to diversify their revenue streams in ways that would have been impossible for previous generations. The family's involvement in cryptocurrency speculation, online gambling, and sophisticated investment fraud demonstrates a technological sophistication that rivals legitimate financial institutions. These operations generate enormous profits while maintaining operational security that makes them extremely difficult for law enforcement to detect and prosecute. Yet even Mancuso's remarkable resurrection story cannot match the sheer audacity of our next figure, a man who has taken on perhaps the most impossible job in organized crime, attempting to control a family so notorious notorious for its internal warfare that it makes Game of Thrones look like a family reunion. Robert Donafrio. In the volatile world of New York organized crime, where power shifts like sand and loyalty is constantly tested, Robert Donafrio stands as the acting boss of the Colombo crime family, while Theodore Persico Jr. remains imprisoned until December 2025. His position represents one of the most precarious and dangerous leadership roles in contemporary organized crime, maintaining control over a historically fractious organization while preparing for the eventual return of its incarcerated leader. The Colombo family has long been considered the most unstable of New York's 5 families, a reputation earned through decades of internal warfare, public violence, and spectacular betrayals that have periodically torn the organization apart from within. The family's history reads like a Shakespearean tragedy, filled with fathers betraying sons, brothers turning against brothers, and ambitious lieutenants orchestrating coups against their superiors. Into this maelstrom stepped Donofrio, whose survival instincts and political acumen have allowed him to emerge as the family's unquestioned leader. What makes Donofrio's leadership particularly remarkable is how he has managed to impose stability on an organization that seemed destined for self-destruction. When he assumed control, the Colombo family was reeling from years of prosecutions that had decimated their leadership ranks and left remaining members suspicious of each other. Many observers believed the family would simply dissolve. Instead, Donafrio has managed to rebuild the organization's criminal infrastructure while maintaining discipline among members historically more interested in fighting each other than fighting common enemies. But all of these remarkable stories of criminal leadership pale before the ultimate prize control of the most famous, most powerful, and most feared crime family in American history, an organization whose very name strikes terror into the hearts of enemies and commands respect from allies, led by a man who has quietly built an empire that would make emperors weep with envy. Domenico Cefalu. At the pinnacle of America's most notorious crime family stands a man whose very name evokes the golden age of organized crime while embodying its modern evolution. Domenico Cefalu, who has served as the official boss of the Gambino crime family since 2011, with no recent changes noted, represents something increasingly rare in contemporary organized crime. A leader who has managed to maintain power for over a decade while successfully steering his organization through some of the most challenging periods in its storied history. The Gambino family, under Cefalu's leadership, occupies a unique position in the landscape of American organized crime. As the inheritors of the empire built by legends like Carlo Gambino and John Gotti, they carry the weight of enormous expectations, while operating under intense scrutiny that comes with being the most famous crime family in American history. Cefalu has managed this burden with remarkable skill, transforming what could have been a crippling legacy into a source of strength and legitimacy. What sets Cefalu apart from many contemporaries is his methodical approach to criminal enterprise. Unlike the flashy, publicity-seeking style that characterized some previous Gambino leaders, Cefalu operates with the quiet efficiency of a seasoned corporate executive. He understands that in the modern era, the most successful crime bosses are those who can blend seamlessly into the legitimate business world while maintaining absolute control over their criminal operations. The territorial scope of the Gambino family's operations under Cefalu's leadership is staggering in its breadth and complexity. The family's influence extends throughout the New York metropolitan area and beyond, encompassing traditional strongholds in Brooklyn and Queens, as well as expanding territories in Long Island, New Jersey, and even into other states. This expansion hasn't been achieved through violence or intimidation alone, but through careful relationship building, strategic partnerships, and systematic cultivation of corrupt relationships within legitimate institutions. Yet even the mighty Gambino empire represents just one piece of a larger puzzle, as the criminal landscape extends far beyond New York's borders into territories controlled by figures whose names may not be as famous, but whose power and ruthlessness are no less formidable, starting with the sophisticated shadow who commands the most psychologically manipulative crime family in America. Liborio Salvatore, Barney Bellomo. In the world of organized crime, where perception often matters more than reality, no figure better embodies the art of criminal invisibility than Liborio Salvatore Barney Bellomo, official boss of the Genovese crime family since his 2019 release. Leading what many consider the most sophisticated and disciplined crime family in America, Bellomo has perfected the delicate balance between maintaining absolute power while appearing to be nothing more than a harmless old man living in suburban obscurity. The Genovese family under Bellomo's leadership represents represents the gold standard of modern, organized crime operations. For decades, the Genovese organization has been renowned for its operational security, its resistance to law enforcement penetration, and its ability to generate enormous profits while avoiding the spectacular public failures that have plagued other crime families. Under Bellomo's guidance, these traditions have been refined to an almost artistic level of criminal perfection. What makes Bellomo particularly dangerous is his understanding that the most effective power is the power that others don't realize you possess. The Genovese family has perfected the art of operating through intermediaries, front men, and elaborate deception schemes that make it nearly impossible for law enforcement to identify the true decision-makers within the organization. This approach has allowed them to maintain their criminal activities even while under intense scrutiny from federal investigators. The psychological warfare employed by the Genovese family under Bellomo's leadership extends far beyond traditional intimidation tactics. The organization has developed sophisticated methods of controlling territory and criminal markets through manipulation, misdirection, and the strategic exploitation of their rivals' weaknesses. They've learned to win wars without fighting battles, to eliminate enemies without violence, and to expand their influence without attracting attention. The financial operations of the Genovese family represent perhaps the most sophisticated money-making machine in American organized crime. Their involvement in labor racketeering, particularly in the construction and waste management industries, generates steady streams of income that are then invested in legitimate businesses and financial instruments. But it's their expansion into white-collar crime, including sophisticated fraud schemes and financial manipulation, that truly demonstrates their evolution under Bellomo's leadership. But while Bellomo's Genovese family perfects the art of invisible power in New York, our next figure operates in a completely different environment, where old-world traditions meet New England's unique criminal landscape, creating a deadly combination that has law enforcement agencies across multiple states living in constant fear. Matthew "Good-Looking Matt" Guglielmetti. In New England, where gritty cities fade into secluded backroads and old-school mob culture still lingers, Matthew "Good-Looking Matt" Guglielmetti leads the Patriarca crime family. As its current boss, he's mastered the art of running a multi-state operation with quiet precision, keeping the New England Mafia alive through discipline, adaptability, and deep regional roots. The Patriarca family, under Guglielmetti's leadership, occupies a unique position in the landscape of American organized crime. Unlike the concentrated urban operations of the New York families or the sprawling suburban networks of the Chicago outfit, the Patriarca organization operates across a diverse geographic area that includes major cities like Boston and Providence, as well as countless small towns and rural areas where law enforcement resources are limited and criminal activities can flourish with minimal. What sets Guglielmetti apart from many of his contemporaries is his ability to maintain the traditional culture and discipline of organized crime, while adapting to the realities of operating in a region where criminal opportunities are often more scattered and require different approaches than those employed by urban crime families. The Patriarca family has developed expertise in areas like drug trafficking, illegal gambling, and labor racketeering that take advantage of New England's unique economic and social characteristics. The criminal empire that Guglielmetti oversees extends throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and parts of New Hampshire and Maine, encompassing both traditional mob activities and more modern criminal enterprises. The family's involvement in illegal gambling operations, particularly sports betting and numbers running, generates significant revenue, while their control of certain labor unions provides them with influence over major construction and infrastructure projects throughout the region. The loyalty that Guglielmetti commands from his subordinates is built on a foundation of shared regional identity and mutual respect that goes beyond simple criminal association. The Patriarca family has maintained its essential character as a distinctly New England criminal organization, one that understands the particular challenges and opportunities of operating in a region where everybody knows everybody, and where reputation and respect carry enormous weight in both legitimate and illegitimate business dealings. From the sophisticated criminal networks of New England, we now travel to the industrial heartland of America, where our next figure has transformed a Rust Belt city into his personal criminal kingdom, proving that organized crime can thrive even in the most unlikely environments. Theodore "Skinny" Teddy Persico Jr. The story of Theodore "Skinny" Teddy Persico Jr. reads like a criminal fairy tale. If fairy tales involve decades of imprisonment, family loyalty tested by federal prosecutions, and the systematic corruption of American labor unions, Theodore Persico Jr., released in May 2025, is believed to be current boss following Andrew Russo's death in 2022. His recent release from federal prison and apparent assumption of leadership in the Colombo family represents one of the most significant developments in organized crime in recent years. Persico's return to power is is particularly significant because it represents the restoration of a criminal dynasty that law enforcement thought it had successfully dismantled. The Persico name has been synonymous with Colombo family leadership for generations, and Teddy's emergence from the shadows suggests that reports of the family's demise have been greatly exaggerated. The Colombo family's specialization in labor racketeering makes it uniquely dangerous to the American economy. The family is involved in labor racketeering and extortion, with a 2024 sentencing of Vincent Ricciardo for shaking down a Queens union. This isn't simply about collecting tribute from individual businesses. This is about systematic corruption of the very organizations that are supposed to protect American workers. When organized crime infiltrates labor unions, the consequences extend far beyond the immediate victims. Union corruption affects wage negotiations, workplace safety standards, pension fund management, and the basic democratic processes that allow workers to have a voice in their employment conditions. The family affects labor relations, disrupts union integrity, and impacts business practices. Persico's criminal sophistication is further demonstrated by the family's involvement in money laundering operations. 2021 indictments show money laundering involvement, revealing an organization that has mastered the art of transforming dirty money into apparently legitimate assets. This capability is crucial for any modern criminal organization, as it allows them to enjoy the fruits of their crimes without attracting the attention that comes with obviously ill-gotten wealth. The timing of Persico's return to leadership is particularly noteworthy. His release comes at a time when law enforcement attention has been diverted to other threats: international terrorism, cybercrime, drug cartels, creating opportunities for traditional organized crime to rebuild and expand. Persico appears to have calculated that this moment represents a strategic opening for the Colombo family to reassert its influence. What makes Persico especially dangerous is his combination of old-school criminal values with modern operational sophistication. He represents a bridge between the traditional mafia culture of his family's past and the technological possibilities of criminal enterprise in the digital age. His ability to maintain family loyalty and discipline while adapting to new opportunities suggests that the Colombo family under his leadership may be entering its most profitable and dangerous period in decades. As Persico rebuilds his family's empire, another criminal mastermind has been quietly revolutionizing organized crime through technological innovation and international financial sophistication. Johnny Joe Ciortino. In the vast expanse of America's heartland, where endless fields of grain meet sprawling urban centers and where traditional Midwestern values create a perfect cover for criminal enterprises, Johnny Joe Ciortino stands as the current boss of the Kansas City crime family, with recent activity noted in 2025 representing one of the most underestimated yet dangerous criminal organizations operating in contemporary America. The Kansas City crime family under Ciortino's leadership occupies a unique strategic position in the geography of American organized crime, located at the crossroads of major transportation networks and serving as a hub for agricultural and industrial commerce. Kansas City provides the perfect base of operations for criminal activities that span multiple states and regions while maintaining the kind of low profile that allows such operations to flourish without attracting the intense law enforcement scrutiny faced by more prominent crime families. What sets Ciortino apart from many of his contemporaries is his sophisticated understanding of how to exploit the particular advantages offered by operating in America's heartland. The Kansas City family has developed expertise in areas like drug trafficking, money laundering, and financial fraud that take advantage of the region's extensive transportation networks, its numerous legitimate businesses that can serve as fronts for criminal activities, and its generally lower levels of law enforcement resources compared to major urban centers. The criminal empire that Ciortino oversees extends throughout Missouri, Kansas, and into neighboring states, encompassing both traditional organized crime activities and more modern criminal enterprises that exploit technological and financial systems. The family's involvement in drug distribution networks, particularly those connecting Mexican suppliers with markets throughout the Midwest and beyond, has proven to be enormously profitable, while their control of certain legitimate businesses provides excellent cover for money laundering operations. From the wide-open spaces of Kansas City, we now venture into the industrial crucible of America's automotive capital, where our next figure has built a criminal empire among the ruins of American manufacturing, proving that organized crime can find opportunity even in the most economically devastated environments. Peter Limone. In the shadows of New England, where autumn leaves fall on centuries of American history and criminal tradition, runs as deep as the region's Puritan roots, the question of current leadership in the New England crime family represents one of the most intriguing mysteries in contemporary organized crime. Peter Leone, born in 1930, was boss until 2009, likely retired by 2025 at age 95. No successor is publicly identified. The uncertainty surrounding New England family leadership reflects broader changes in the landscape of American organized crime. The FBI's disbanding of the Boston Organized Crime Squad in December 2024 suggests the New England Mafia is fading, representing either a genuine decline in criminal activity or, more ominously, an evolution toward forms of crime that traditional law enforcement methods cannot effectively detect. If Peter Leone remains involved in family operations at age 95, he would represent an unprecedented figure in American organized crime, a leader whose criminal career spans nearly 8 decades of American history. Such longevity in criminal leadership is virtually unknown in modern organized crime, where careers typically end in imprisonment, death, or retirement by age 70. The potential absence of identified leadership in New England creates both opportunities and dangers. On one hand, it might suggest that law enforcement has successfully disrupted the region's organized crime infrastructure. On the other hand, it might indicate that criminal leadership has evolved to become so sophisticated and discreet that even experienced investigators cannot identify the current power structure. The family's likely activities include gambling, loan sharking, extortion, with reduced presence. Even in decline, these traditional criminal activities continue to impact local communities, suggesting that some form of organized criminal structure persists in New England, even if its leadership remains mysterious. What makes the current situation particularly intriguing is the possibility that the apparent absence of leadership might itself be a strategic choice. In an era of sophisticated electronic surveillance and aggressive federal prosecution, the most successful criminal leaders might be those who have learned to operate with such discretion that they appear not to exist at all. As New England's criminal future remains shrouded in mystery, the shores of Lake Erie harbor a tactician whose quiet stability has created one of America's most enduring criminal enterprises. And that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this video, check out these other ones on your screen right now. Thanks for watching. Till next time.